Good afternoon and welcome to today's presentation. My name is John Charles. I'm a career advisor in the American University Career Center. And the topic for today is trends in the future of work, how you can build skills to prepare. The reason why we're doing this session is because we want to help students think about what might be helpful as they move forward in time in their college careers and then post-college careers. And also, what does it mean when we say the future of work? I'm going to limit this presentation to maybe just a few of the features of a changing workplace, which includes, of course, things like hybrid work, as well as the development of artificial intelligence, AI, which will be changing many careers moving forward. You see in this first image, there is a robot at a computer. Now, that might be a scary thought, that I'm going to be replaced by a computer as I'm moving forward in my career. I'm going to suggest that that's not exactly what we will see. And I'm also going to give a little bit of a caveat to say, I can't predict the future. I don't know exactly what's going to happen. And so maybe rather than trying to do that, we can focus on what we as individuals can do to adapt to a changing workplace. So the agenda for today includes thinking about how we talk about the future of work. So if we look at trends, it's one way of talking about the future of work. But we can also look at our own individual experience, our own individual action. And my argument today is that it's probably more useful to think about us as individuals as opposed to what are the big trends happening, because we are still individuals regardless of what's happening in the wider world. And then I also want to consider how the workplace has changed during the pandemic and how, of course, we are now working in different modalities, including virtually and then hybrid, where we're perhaps going into the office and also doing some days of work at home. And then I'm going to ask you to consider specific skills that you could develop that would help you adapt to this changing world of work. And it will involve doing a mind map, which is a visual illustration that helps you get ideas down on paper and make things seem a little bit more real. Finally, we have time for questions and discussion at the end. So I have a slide next of the Jetsons. Now, some of you who are younger would not know who the Jetsons are. The Jetsons was a TV cartoon that started in 1962. So it was still going strong when I was a young lad in the 1970s. And I enjoyed the show. I thought it was kind of fun. I liked that there was flying cars, and there was a dog named Astro. Elroy was the boy. Jane was the mom. George was the dad. And oh goodness, I've forgotten the name of the sister. But in any case, the reason why I'm showing you this slide is to say that sometimes we can have a cartoonish view of the future. Sometimes it's a caricature, and it's not always very helpful for us to think about the future in that way. So again, we're going to move more to the individual action and experience as a way of being more effective in moving into the future. Now, so here we have young people moving into their careers. So there's like rays of sunshine, and they're moving into an unknown world. I guess that's why their faces are muted. And this is what we are going to ask you to think about. So now, here we have a breakdown of the modalities of work, especially since before and during the pandemic. So when on March 13th, Friday, March 13th, 2020, were asked to go home, we thought it was going to be working for 2 weeks, and then we'd be headed back to the office. Little did we know that 3 years later, the situation would be somewhat changed back, but not entirely. And so I wanted to point out this information to you just to show how before the pandemic, 60% of people who were able to work virtually. In other words, we're not talking about service workers or like food workers. We're talking about people whose jobs allowed them to work from a distance. So fully 60% of people were on site, 32% were doing hybrid work, both remote and on site, and only 8% were fully remote. Now, fast forward to what we expect to happen in the future. And it looks like more than half will be in a hybrid modality. However, one thing that's interesting among the workers and their preference is that fully 32% in the future would wish to work exclusively remotely, whereas the anticipation is that only 24% will be able to do that. So it's an interesting kind of difference between what people desire and what we expect. Likewise, on the other side, only 9% want to work fully on site, whereas it appears that about 23% will have to be on site moving forward. Now, let's talk a little bit about artificial intelligence. I'll warn you that while it looks like this is a brain on artificial intelligence, I think it's just this image that's meant to get this, again, get a reaction out of us. To me, there seems like there's a lot of fear around AI. And I don't know that that's helpful. I don't know that it's ever really useful to have a fearful approach. So that's, again, that's sort of my bias here. Now, I found an excellent article, and it's linked on one of the slides, and so you'll be able to access it, that talks about what can you do to develop skills in an AI-dominated world. It appeared in Rolling Stone, which is a famous rock magazine, some of you might know. And the first thing was really fascinating to me, and that's why I put it on the slide. It seems kind of absurd in a way, but this is what they say: be a better human. Relationship skills are essential. Take your business partners, clients, and investors out to dinner. Meet them for coffee. Go for walks with them. Learn the names of their spouses and children. Ask about them and truly listen. Get to know them beyond the business at hand. AI will never be human, but we can always be better ones in business and in life. This is a quote from entrepreneur Shirin Etessam. So what's interesting to me about this is we don't have to compete with AI as individuals. We simply need to be better at the things that AI can't do. And so I think it's an argument for self-improvement, really. And so maybe that gives us a sense of, okay, maybe it's not as bad as I thought. Maybe I can still be a human and still operate in an AI-dominated world. Now, some of the other things that this article points out are skills that you might want to think about. They include learning how to make AI serve you as opposed to the idea that we are beholden to artificial intelligence. Write handwritten notes. What's that? What they're saying here is that we can stand out as individuals by doing things that people don't do that often. If you're the kind of person who writes handwritten notes and gives them to people, it means that you're going to stand out. People are going to notice you because you're doing something that other people aren't doing. So that's another approach that you might want to consider. Learn AI prompting. This has to do with, for those of you who've used ChatGPT, maybe to see how it works, there are certain words, instructions that you can give to an AI device that will give you better or worse results. So that's something. So the idea here is we need to learn a little bit about AI just so that we know we can use it effectively. And then strengthen connections and network. Well, that's what I do most of my day as a career advisor. I tell students and alums that they can be more effective if they focus on how they can build and maintain and strengthen their professional networks. Again, this is not anything brand new, is it? But it's a good reminder of what we can focus on. And then we want to aim to be more adaptable change is coming really quickly. We can fight it, but that's probably not going to be helpful. So let's do our best to try to get on the wagon, as it were, and adjust our lives. Kind of similar to that is becoming a quick learner. We don't have as much time, frankly, to slowly, ploddingly learn things. And so we might need to be just a little quicker in adapting and then also learning new skills, new pieces of information. And then finally, be detail oriented. I think this gets at what AI can't do again, right? So AI can't understand someone's maybe their favorite ice cream, or the aspects of a human that only other humans can perceive. And so again, good reminder, let's continue being human as opposed to trying to be like a robot. All right, and so what follows then is, we call these soft skills, or the kinds of skills that are helpful in human interaction. And that can be a good focus for you, again, as you think about what skills can I develop to move into this AI world. I would argue that many of the same skills that we've always talked about in the career development world, and they include situational awareness, enthusiasm and optimism, empathy, friendliness and manners, time management. Again, nothing new here, but these might be things that maybe we didn't focus on. We focus so much on technical skills and coding, programming, and we forgot about the day-to-day things that we have to do to be successful, to put on events, to help people, to do our work. All right, so this image has to do with the idea of being a learner. If you can be a good learner, if you can be the kind of person who's always trying to get better, always trying to figure things out, that's how you're going to succeed in an AI-dominated world. All right, so I mentioned some of the articles. The one I really like is this one from Rolling Stone: 9 essential steps professionals can take to stay relevant in an AI-dominated world. And I'd like to thank my colleagues for input on some of this information. And they include Emily Lalonde, Rob St. George, Liz Romig, and over in Vendor Library, Katie Hutt. So thank you, colleagues, for your input on this information. Now, I always like to have a little exercise in my presentations to try to integrate, solidify the points that I'm making. So one thing that I always like to have people do is what I call a mind map. A mind map is a drawing with words that allows you to get ideas on paper so that they get out of your mind and sort of, you can think of them in a different way than if you're just imagining them. So what I did is a real quick one. It's a real quick one on work future. So this, for example, if I'm someone who's working in my future, what can I pursue that will help me? What skills can I develop? And one of them, of course, is networking, right? Building those professional networks. Another one might be taking e-courses, like learning online courses. And then maybe I can also study AI. I can learn about what the details are that affect me. And so I can learn a little bit of the technical nuances that go into artificial intelligence. And then finally, I can just be exploring. I can be that kind of individual who's always trying to learn, who's always trying to stretch myself and pick up new knowledge. All right, at this point, I'll see if there's any questions from our audience. What will you focus on when you consider building skills for your work future? I'll just pause for a minute to see if we have any questions coming in. All right, so we did get one question that concerns, okay, I understand that there are certain things I can focus on so that I can adapt better. But it still seems to me like there's more that I have to do to change in order to succeed. I still feel as if I need to develop specific technical skills, such as computer programming, data analytics. Don't you think those are important too? And so my answer to that is yes. Thank you very much for that question, by the way. So even though the emphasis in my presentation has been on those so-called soft skills, the non-technical skills, I do believe that it still is important to stretch ourselves and learn some kind of technical skills. Now, you might not be a math whiz. You might not be so good at data analytics, which some people study, other people avoid like the plague, right? And so even if you're not one of those people who's really has a facility in doing those more quantitative tasks, what I would urge you to do is think about, okay, if you're not so great at learning those, can you find a mentor? Can you find a coach, someone who can explain those things to you in a way that will help you to do your work? So again, we don't have to be an expert in everything. And in fact, I would argue that we're not. We have certain things that we do really, really well, and we want to spend as much time as we can working in those areas, because that's how we will maximize our success. At the same time, there are areas that we need to get better at just because we want a certain level, let's say a competency level. So I think, thanks again for this question about technical skill. I would say we all need to have a certain competency, right? And then from there, you do your best to maximize your effort on those things that are where your true skill set, where your true abilities lie. I hope that helps. All right. Thank you for being here with us for this session on trends in the future of work. Moving forward, feel free to contact me. I have my email, charles@american.edu. I would ask you, however, if you use LinkedIn, please connect with me there. I use LinkedIn in a more dynamic way than I use email, and it's probably a better way for you to interact with me. Thank you again for being here today. I'm John Charles from the American University Career Center, and my message to you as we close is the future does not have to be a scary place. In fact, it's no scarier than any other place. It's just that we need to focus here in the present on what tasks we can do to position ourselves in the future. And I think if you think in those terms, it'll be easier for you to adapt and to move forward into an AI-dominated world. Thanks so much. Take care. Bye-bye.